Good day and welcome to Alena Media TV. We are broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. I am Elsa Abraham. Today we'll give you African news. And here is our headlines. 3 Africans vying for the post of WTO Director General. Sudan declares 3-month state of emergency over deadly floods. And Ethiopia, Tigray region votes unconstitutional, lawmakers say. Now let's go for our news in details. The World Trade Organization begins today the process of selecting its new boss following the resignation of Brazilian Roberto Azevedo on 31st August, as Africa has never had a representative at the head of the WTO. The continent hopes to have its fair chance. 8 candidates are in the running, including 3 Africans. The Kenyan Amina Ahmed, a former minister who was also Kenya's ambassador to the WTO, where she chaired several boards. She is running for the post of Director General for the 2nd time. The Egyptian Hamed Mamdouh has a perfect knowledge of the WTO, where he worked for 20 years. The Nigerian Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala has more than 30 years of expertise in development and finance. She was the managing director of the World Bank from 2007 to 2011. The selection process is expected to take several months. The WTO may opt for interim leadership in the meantime. In the midst of the global economic slump caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, several major projects await the future boss of the WTO, preparing for the 2021 ministerial conference and above all trying to relaunch the dialogue with the United States. Moving on to our second story for the day, Sudan declares 3-month state of emergency over deadly floods. Floods have killed at least 99 people this year and caused total and partial collapse of more than 100,000 homes. Authorities in Sudan have declared a national state of emergency for 3 months and designated the country a neutral disaster zone after flooding that has killed dozens of people. Lena El Sheikh, Sudan's Minister of Labor and Social Development, said in addition to 99 deaths, floods this year had injured 46 people, inflicted damage on more than 500,000 people, and caused the total of partial collapse of more than 100,000 homes. The rates of flood and rain for this year exceeded the records set during the years in 1946 and 1988, with expectations of continued rising indicators. State news agency SUNA quoted El Sheikh as saying on Saturday, "This isn't the first time the Nile has flooded its banks, but those affected say it's the worst they have ever seen." Al Jazeera Habib Morgan, reporting from the capital, Khartoum, said, adding that at least 500,000 people have been forced out of their homes as a result of the major rise in the Nile water levels. Sudanese authorities have declared their country a natural disaster area and imposed a 3-month state of emergency across the country. The amount of water was unimaginable, Omar Ahmed, a resident of Dum, east of Khartoum, told Al Jazeera. "I was at home not expecting the water to reach my house. It reached the house before me, my house and the homes after me. Around my house, more than 40 homes were destroyed by the floods." Another Dum resident said people have taken their properties and left their homes. "We have houses that have been partially destroyed and houses that have completely collapsed." Meanwhile, Sudan's Security and Defense Council announced the formation of a Supreme Committee to deal with the ramifications of the floods, SUNA reported. Sudan's rainy season begins in June and continues through to October, which means the country experiences floods and torrential rains annually. The committee warned on Friday that the country may face more rains, adding that the water level in the Blue Nile rose to a record of 17.58 meters. Experts say a large part of the problem because climate change. The rains usually come at a certain time and people have been counting on that, and they move to areas where the Nile borders the banks. Marwa Taha, a climate change expert, told Al Jazeera. But this year, we've seen an increase in the amount of rainfall because of climate change, and so the Nile has flooded more than before. A lot of trees have been cut down to make place for residential areas near the Nile, affecting the valleys where the water would flow through. Now moving on to our next story for the day. Ethiopia lawmakers called next week's election in the northern Tigray region unconstitutional and vowed not to recognize the results, further increasing political tensions in the Horn of African nations. The country's upper house of parliament, the House of Federation, on Saturday called the formation of an electoral board in the region illegal and said any actions taken by it would be unenforceable, state-controlled Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation reported. The Tigray election is the latest headache for Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who has embarked on Africa's second most populous nation on a reform path to open up the economy and political arena after decades of repression. On Thursday, Tigray's regional government called an attempt to stop the elections a declaration of war and boycotted Saturday's House of Federation session, accusing the upper house of failing to disclose the meeting's agenda. National elections, which had been scheduled for August and were being touted as a key test of Abiy's reforms, were postponed in March because of the coronavirus pandemic, a move that Tigray's government called unconstitutional. In June, Ethiopian lawmakers whose mandate was set to end in October voted to extend their terms until the poll takes place. The House of Federation's decision reaffirms its stance that Tigray's election is unconstitutional, said William Davison, the International Crisis Group section analyst for Egypt, that paves the way for the federal government to take measures against Tigray. Subsidies to the state of Tigray from federal government were 10.4 billion. According to the 476 billion 2020-21 financial year budget. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, the region's ruling party, was once the preeminent party in Ethiopia's ruling coalition known as the Ethiopian People's Revolution Democratic Front. Today, it is in opposition to the Prime Minister Properties Party, which was formed last year without the inclusion of the TPLF. Since coming to power in 2018, Abiy has sidelined the TPLF and consolidated power under his own party. Approximately 3 million people are expected to vote in September 9th regional election, according to the newly formed Tigray Regional Electoral Commission. According to the newly formed Tigray Regional Election Commission, and results are expected by September 13th. 5 parties are participating, including the TPLF and other smaller regional parties such as Tigray Independence Party, which advocates for the secession of the region from Ethiopia. The Prosperity Party and the Tigray Democratic Party are both boycotting the elections. This is where we end today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment. Let us know your thoughts on this particular